Hello everybody, welcome to this morning's Speakers for Schools virtual talk. We're delighted so many students from across our school network have been able to join us. This session will last for around 45 minutes and will include a presentation from our speaker before moving to Q&A. Questions for our speaker can be submitted via the Q&A function on the right-hand side of your screen, and this will be open towards the end of the presentation for students to submit questions. Unfortunately, we will not be able to answer all submitted questions. We have several hundred questions submitted in every talk we organise, and there's simply not enough time to answer them all. I'm delighted to welcome this morning's speaker, Elizabeth Desmond. Elizabeth is the Deputy CEO and Global CIO of Mondrian Investment Partners. This talk is run in collaboration with the charity Gain and will focus on investment and why investment can be a great career option. Liz has kindly agreed to join us to discuss what investment is, who investors are, why you should care about investing, and why it could make a great career opportunity. Liz, hi, welcome to your first Speakers for Schools virtual talk.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for logging in. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to you about investing, its importance to all of us, and our futures. And for those of you who might be interested, the possibilities and benefits of a career in investing. As I was introduced, I'm Liz Desmond. I'm one of the founding partners of Mondrian Investment Partners. Today, I'm Deputy CEO and Chief Investment Officer for International Equities. On behalf of our clients, Mondrian looks after approximately $40 billion US. Our clients are pension funds who are investing to provide people's retirements, endowments and foundations who are investing to provide education and other charitable activities, and funds that manage individual savings. I invest on behalf of these clients. I invest on behalf of these clients in stock markets in the UK, across Europe, Japan, Asia, and Australia. Our clients include entities like the state of New York, the states of California and Florida, also in the United States, the healthcare company Pfizer, the large bank Wells Fargo, as well as numerous universities and hospitals. I have lived in the UK for over 30 years, but before that, I grew up in the northeast of the United States and went to university there. When I left university, my ambition was to travel, but I had significant student debts, and like many Americans, I didn't even have a passport. Through the university recruitment, I was fortunate to get a job as an English teacher in the local schools in southern Japan. My time in Japan gave me knowledge, language skills, and experience that I've been able to use subsequently in my investment career. What I'd like to talk to you today in terms of enabling you to understand what that career has been for me and for the broader world, I'd like to spend about 10 to 15 minutes talking about what is investing, how investing works, and why we should all care about it, and then why investing is a great career, and if you're interested, what you can do to learn more about it. So what is investing? On the screen in front of you, you can see a dictionary definition. But what I'd like to highlight is that investment is fundamental to our economy. It creates jobs, it creates wealth for the country, and ultimately drives investment in economic growth. If Tesco wants to open a new shop, they need money to buy land, to build the store, and to employ the people who will work there before they've ever sold anything. If Amazon needs a new warehouse to deliver more goods, they need to invest the money first. And if one of our healthcare companies wants to discover a new treatment for cancer, or even for coronavirus, they need to invest money first. They need to employ the scientists to do the research. In making these investments, these companies and the shareholders who own them hope that their companies will grow, employ more people, and create profit and wealth. Many of the shareholders of these companies are your parents and your grandparents' pensions, who save the their so that they will be able to retire in the future. Many of you will have seen Dragon's Den. A few people with some savings interview people with good and, in some cases, not so good business ideas. The people with good ideas are hoping that by getting support from people with savings, together they can, they can build a successful and profitable venture for both parties and for the people they will hopefully employ. That's what investing is. And working in investment management is like being a dragon in the dragon's den every day, deciding which companies or opportunities to put money into. Now, I'll be honest, there are some differences between me and the dragons in the den. I'm fortunately, at least I think, not a celebrity. But I do actually get the opportunity to invest much larger sums of money. We often invest £100 million or £200 million in a single company. But that's a big responsibility because, of course, I'm not investing my own money. Thinking about investment, therefore, it's really kind of two things. Investing is using money and knowledge to generate an increase in wealth. You buy something for £10 because you believe that you should be able to get back 20 in the future, just like the dragons on Dragon's Den do. But also more broadly, investment is also defined as devoting time and effort to achieve something. Many of you will be thinking about university or further education. This will require money, time, and significant effort by you. And if you decide to make this investment, it will be because you believe that the investment will make your future more interesting, more financially rewarding, and or possibly more fun. We're all therefore investors, whether we like it or not. Every time you decide whether to use money from a weekend job to buy a new sweatshirt or to put it in the bank, you're deciding between investing in your appearance today or investing in your ability to buy something in the future. Now, companies need investment, both when they're just getting started, like one of the companies in Dragon's Den, or when they're entering into a new phase of growth. Investors like us, like the dragons, listen to them, and ultimately decide which ones to back. Over the past 10 years, two companies that you're familiar with, Facebook and Snapchat, have come to the stock market to raise money to continue to grow. If they'd come to you, which company do you think you would have backed? Think about it for a minute. If you had invested £100 in Facebook on the day that it became a public company in 2012, by now you'd have over £460. That's a pretty good return. The company's continued to grow and it's done well for its investors. By contrast, if you'd invested £100 in Snap when it became a public company, you'd only have £44 today. That's not so great, is it? But would you really have expected that? Looking backwards with hindsight is the easy part of the job. As an investor, working out what the future will look like is the real challenge. And that is most definitely not easy, and it's not an exact science. So one option, because it's so hard to know how the future will develop, is to invest in both companies if you think they might be attractive. If you had backed both, For your £200 investment, you would have over £500 today. So overall, you'd have still made more than twice your money. As an investor, we'll make mistakes. We do it. It's part of the job. But in a structured, well-structured portfolio, the objective is that despite some mistakes, we'll be able to make money for our clients over time. So who are the who are the investors? We've talked about some of them, such as pension funds, endowments and foundations. And who are they investing in? They're investing in a whole range of different types of investments. Now, for example, some of you will have mobile phone insurance. And if you lose your phone, you want that company to be able to pay the money back to you. But in order for them to be able to pay it back to you, they have to take the premium that you paid them in the first place, invest it, and earn some money on that. Your grandparents, as we said, might have a pension, but in order for them to retire, money had to be saved and invested so that they can live on the proceeds today. Some of you want to go to university. Many universities have portfolios of investments, and they use the proceeds to supplement the tuition in order to provide a broader and deeper experience for students. And eventually, you might have some savings that you want to invest. All of these are different types of, all of these different types of investors, deploy their money in different types of investments depending on what their objective is. And who are the people who actually do the investing for them? Who is it that looks after the money from investors and actually channels it to the companies and the entrepreneurs with the great ideas? On the screen in front of you are some people that I know who work at an investment management company that I'm friendly with. You might think that you might have expected that all investors are kind of middle-aged men in suits. And there are plenty of middle-aged men in suits in the industry. However, the industry also includes, and this is important, many young people, women, people from all over the country, and from many different types of backgrounds. And so, it's very important to know that your impression of who works in the industry may be very different from who the people are who are actually there. People on this slide look like they're having fun, and that's great. It's their job, it's nice they're enjoying it, but the question for you though is, why should you really care about investing? Surely the government can pay for your university or for your grandparents' pension. But the problem is that it's not that simple. The money actually needs to come from somewhere. The wealth of the country and the range of opportunities around us come because people were prepared to take their savings and take risks, to invest some money, back people with great ideas. Some of you might have an iPhone, or you might have plans to save your money and buy one. But where does this iPhone come from? You might think the Apple Store, China maybe. But let's go back and talk about where the iPhone came from originally. In the 1970s, a young entrepreneur called Steve Jobs had the idea of making personal computers a consumer product. Seems obvious today, they're everywhere. But at the time, it was a radical idea. Computers with a fraction of the power of one of today's smartphones filled big rooms, and you had to be an engineer to even use a computer in those days. But Steve Jobs thought that he could create a computer for ordinary people to use. In 1977, he got his first investment of $250,000 from a wealthy individual investor called Mike Makula. In return, and this might seem like a really good deal today, but in return, Mike got to own about a third of the company. And because he was an experienced engineer, he also contributed his engineering expertise to support and strengthen the company. What a good investment for Mike and for Steve Jobs. Roll forward to today. Apple is one of the most valuable companies in the world. It's worth over $1 trillion. That's $1,000 billion. And even after the impact of coronavirus. So, you know, there's no doubt it was a pretty good investment for Mike Makula. But it's also been a good investment for the world. It's created products that companies want, or that consumers want, sorry. And to make those products, it directly and indirectly employs more than 125,000 people worldwide. If you had some money at the time, do you think you'd have invested in Steve Jobs and Apple? Or asked another way, if a college dropout with little practical experience and crazy ideas about computers came to ask you for money you had saved, would you have invested in him? A lot of people didn't. Mike Makula wasn't the first person that Steve Jobs went to. But Steve Jobs was actually lucky that it was Mike Makula who backed him, because Mike's engineering knowledge and management expertise were directly beneficial to the young Apple. With a different investor, the company may have struggled, might not have been the successful trillion-dollar company that we know today. With hindsight, investment looks easy, but actually, there often isn't a right answer. I'm guessing that some of you would have invested in Apple and some of you wouldn't have. And you're both right. Anyone who did invest at the time would have done very well, fantastically as it turns out. But the investment was risky, and Mike Makula or another investor could just as easily have lost all their money. The investment industry actually needs a range of people with different approaches, some who are prepared to take a lot of risk to generate high returns, and others who are more cautious and more focused on preserving the money that has been entrusted with them. Because as an investor, it's a big responsibility. You're responsible for looking after your clients' money, but part of that also means ensuring that the companies in which you are investing are doing the right thing. This actually makes business sense. Companies which behave well are more likely to find favor with consumers and less likely to end up in the doghouse with regulators. And what's great about being an investor is that you can drive positive change in the world by being on the board of a company, in the case of venture capital, or by using your vote as a public equity investor. You can hold companies to task on important issues like climate change and gender equality. Without investors, most companies would cease to exist. So we really do have a voice. At the beginning of the presentation, I said I'd cover three things: why investing, or what is investing, which we talked about. How does investing work and why we should all care about it? And hopefully I've convinced you of some of the reasons for that. But then finally, why investing is a great career. There are three reasons that I really want to highlight. The first is that investing is interesting and challenging. Every day, you have to think about something different, a new challenge, a new opportunity. For example, coronavirus has affected all of us. You can't go to school. Many people can't go to work. or have been forced to work from home. As an investor, you need to think about how this impacts the companies in which you're investing and what they can do to manage the situation. So, for example, if you're invested in Tesco, business is going well, right? Everybody needs food to eat. You can't go out to restaurants or get food from other places. So business must be really good. But then you think about it a little bit in more detail and you think, well, actually, Tesco employs thousands of people whose health the company has to think about and plan for to protect. And then also social distancing means that fewer people can go into the shop at any time. So that impacts their ability to, sell products to people. In contrast, if you're invested in Netflix, well, life's really good, isn't it? Yeah, everyone wants to watch your product. Secondly, investment is a financially rewarding career. After all, one of the reasons that we all go to work is to earn money, to buy a house, to feed ourselves, to go on holiday. And investment is a good career if those are things that you're interested in. And then finally, investment offers a lot of opportunities. In early November, I was in Madrid to meet with current investments. In late November, I was in Tokyo meeting with possible new investments. And in February, I was in Florida meeting clients. Well, we all know we can't travel now, but we will be able to travel again in the future. And since lockdown started, my colleagues and I have spoken to clients in New York, in San Francisco, Seattle, Detroit, Chicago, and Boston, amongst other cities in the United States. And we've also spoken to the senior management of major companies such as Sony, Tesco, Lloyds Bank, and Santander. And we've been able to hear their insights on the challenges that we're all facing and their thoughts on how their companies will face the future. Few careers offer such a range of interest and opportunities. I hope this has given you some idea of the possibilities that are available in investment. And even if it's not a career for you, the investments that we, our family and friends, our neighbors, and our wider communities make will impact the outcomes for all of us. So it's worth making the time to take at least a little bit of an interest. Thank you very much for listening, and I'd be very happy to answer any questions that you may have.
That's great. Thank you so much, Liz. Much appreciated. We have a handful of questions already prepared, and then we'll move on to student Q&A if that's okay.
Sure.
Fantastic.
That's fine.
I guess initially it'd be really interesting to know, did you always want to be an investor, and how did you kind of find your way into this career if that wasn't something you'd thought about when you were a teenager, perhaps?
Sure. No, I didn't really know anything about investing when I was, certainly when I was the age of those of you listening today. I knew very little about investing, and in fact, I really didn't even know that much when I was at university. At university, I studied philosophy, so I didn't really study much that was relevant to investment. Or directly relevant. In many ways, many things are relevant to investment. But I really wanted to travel, as I said. I'd never been outside the United States, and I wanted to have a chance to go to see some of the rest of the world. When I was in Japan, I became friendly with an American family that happened to be living there, and the mother of my friend said to me one day, "You must meet this woman she works in a bank. I think you'll really like her. And I thought, okay, I'll you want me to do it, so I'll do it. And I went and I spoke to, she took me out to lunch, and I spoke to her, and she said to me, you might think banking, finance, investment is boring. She said, but actually, it interacts with almost everything that's going on around you in the world. There are few careers that have that range and depth of opportunity. Really think about it. And I walked away from that meeting, and I don't know, I would love to say thank you to her today, because I don't actually even know what her name is, but I owe her a great debt of gratitude for introducing me to a really interesting career.
Fantastic. And just thinking about a day in the life of an investor, what skills do you think you need to have to be good at or to thrive in the investing industry?
Mm-hmm. The first thing I'd say is that in investment there are quite a wide range of different types of investments and jobs that you can actually undertake. So the range of skills, investment offers opportunities to people with a lot of different skills. There are parts of investment that are very quantitatively oriented. So if you're interested in maths, if you're interested in highly sort of quantitative analytical work, there are roles for you. But equally, if you're more interested in qualitative analysis and thinking about, for instance, how the future may evolve and develop, there are roles for you as well. The key thing is to be broadly interested in the world around you, to try to understand some of the very basics of how companies operate, understand a bit about economics and understand how economies operate. And that will, at this stage of your life, it's understanding things very broadly that's really important. But over time, there are a wide range of skills actually are applicable to careers investment. I would encourage those of you that have some maths orientation that it's helpful to have maths, and it's better if you can continue it. It doesn't exclude you if you don't, but it's certainly a very useful skill to have as you engage with investment.
Fantastic. And just reflecting on your own role, Liz, what would you say is the best bit about your job and the hardest bit about your job?
Wow. The best bit is the best bit, I mean, for me, one of the best bits is the fact that I have been able to engage with the world. I've had the opportunity to come and live in London. I travel around Europe. I spend time in Japan, in the Far East, as well as go back and a lot of my clients are based in North America, so I have the opportunity to go back and meet with them. So that opportunity to engage with the world is just, to me, fantastic. I get to meet some really interesting people who are thinking in a lot of different ways. That again is fantastic. And then on a day-to-day basis, I get to make decisions. I think about whether I want to invest in a company. I have to think and consider that investment carefully, and then it's the market will tell me whether or not I've got it right or not over time, and that's challenging. But it's it's just a great feeling when you do actually get an investment right.
Fantastic. And then just thinking, you mentioned that you travel quite a lot within your role. What is the most interesting place you've visited with work?
Gosh, the most, wow. Personally, I love visiting. I love visiting Japan. It's a combination of a futuristic city with some really long, historically embedded culture. There's some beautiful temples. You've got beautiful temples and traditions. If you go to say Kyoto, which is the old imperial capital of Japan, but you combine that in that same city, you've got companies like Nintendo that are building computer game software. You've got companies, other companies that you might not be so familiar with, like Rome, that are building advanced electronic components. And they're all in this same city, where you've got thousands of years of history coupled with with the future and some of the best technology in the world, and it's just a great place.
Fantastic. And a few of our students who are tuning into the session have asked if there is anyone who has inspired you throughout your career, Liz.
I mean, I think when I talked earlier about, there have been a couple of, it's been interesting, the people who've motivated me, have been what you'd almost call unsung heroes, and they're people that I can honestly say I haven't thanked. So it's the woman who sat down with me and took the time to tell me, as a young person, why investment was such a great career, who today I don't even know her name, and I can't thank her. There was a woman who I worked for when I was a student. Just as I was finishing as a student, I worked for a harbor cruise company in Boston as a waitress, and I got a phone call offering me the job to go to Japan, but they said to me I had to go in a week's time, which was a bit shocking to me because I had never been outside of the US at that point. And the woman who I was supposed to work for, who was counting on me for that summer to help her, said to me, go do it. This is a great opportunity for you. I'll find someone else to take your job. And to this day, I feel very thankful that there were people who actually took an interest in me and they had no need or personal reason to take an interest in me, but they chose to. And for me, they are the mentors that are most important.
Fantastic. And one of our students has also asked, could you describe what a typical day would look like for you, particularly during lockdown, I guess? Has that changed from pre-lockdown to where we are now? And what does that look like for you?
Okay, sure. So I'll tell you a little bit about our day during lockdown, and then I'll maybe contrast it with what it's like when we're in the office. So in the case of lockdown, we'll begin at sort of your first thing in the morning. We'll begin, all of the group that I work with, and there are about 10 of us. We'll sit down on Zoom, and we'll talk through how stock markets are doing. Overnight, the Asian markets have all been open already because they're ahead of us in time zone. So we'll talk about how they've been doing. We'll talk about anything that's any announcements that any of the companies that we're invested in have made. So yeah, it could be that, Sony, for instance, has released a new game and that's really exciting, or it could be that one of the healthcare companies that we're invested in has released the results of some drug trials that they've been doing. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about how the stock market has reacted to that. Then we'll go through and look at whether we've got any companies that we're trying to buy and sell at the moment on behalf of our clients. We'll then talk through whether our clients have sent us any requests, whether they need money or perhaps they want some more money invested on their behalf. And we'll talk about how we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to focus on for the rest of the day. So some of us will be spending our time focused on a new investment idea. If, for instance, we were thinking about investing more money in Tesco, then one of my colleagues would go away and they'd spend some time reading through Tesco's reports and accounts. They'd spend some time thinking about looking at our spreadsheet where we think about what the future might look. We model the future for Tesco. He or she would go back and look at that, and then maybe later in the day we would all get together on Zoom again, and that member of the team would take us through his or her thoughts and explaining why why she might think Tesco's a great investment, or why it might not be such a good idea right now. And then we'd make a decision, which then one of our colleagues would work with our trading desk to implement that and to purchase or sell the necessary shares. So our day is pretty much focused on, our day in lockdown is focused very much on the same things that it was focused on before we went into lockdown. However, we're meeting virtually. There are good things and bad things. On virtual presentations, it's more easy to get distracted. And so suddenly you find that someone's been explaining something and you have to say, stop, go back, I missed that. Whereas when you're actually sitting around a table with your colleagues, it's more easy to focus, I think, and less tempting to pick up your phone or look at your emails. So there are definite challenges to doing it in lockdown. But the good thing is that when you need to think about something from a research perspective, there are fewer people knocking on your door or coming up to your desk and interrupting you. So some things it's easier to do, but other things it's definitely more challenging to concentrate on.
Absolutely, I would definitely agree with that, working from home myself as well, Liz. A quite popular question that's been submitted here is, do you believe it's difficult for women to get into investing as a career due to sexism or bias?
I think that there are always challenges. If you're not the image that somebody has in their mind, and I talked a little bit about it in the presentation. Most of you probably think that it is kind of middle-aged men dressed in suits who are going into the City of London every day, who are the people working in investment. So if you're not the natural image that somebody has in their mind, it can be challenging, and you need to convince the people who are interviewing you or considering you for a job that you're the right candidate. But don't be put off by that. Things like that can happen in all walks of life, and they can happen to men and to women depending on the roles that you're talking about. Investing benefits from having a diverse range of people working in investment as a career. So ultimately, people do know that we need a wide range of people. So persevere. Think about, if you feel that you're having trouble breaking through, think about what you can do to make yourself better prepared. Think about how you can present yourself in a way that shows that you're interested in the role. One of the key things that people, when you're being interviewed for a role, the people who are interviewing want to be able to see evidence that you're interested in it. They also want to see evidence about what you can do for the company. Now, at your age, your students, you're thinking about doing your A-levels, you're thinking about whether you go on to university, and you're thinking about learning things. But one of the things that you find is that when you move from learning things to doing a job, sure, you want a job where you're going to continue to learn a lot because that's what's important for development. But when a company comes to employ you, they want to know what you can do for them. They want to know that, you can build a spreadsheet for them, that you can think about a company and tell them what the company does well and what it doesn't do well. They want to know that you can write a letter for them. They want to know that there are basic things that you can do for them because they're hiring you and they're going to pay you for what you do for them ultimately. So you move from an environment where you're learning to an environment where there's give and take. They pay you, you do work for them. Now, you still want to make sure you're always learning, but you have to understand that there's a relationship that goes on. So as someone who's trying to break into the investment world, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, whether you're from a minority background, what you want to be able to do is show that company that you bring things that they will really benefit from having you there for. And that will make them, and show that you're interested. That's what's important, and that's one of the big mistakes we see when people come in to be interviewed by us. They come in asking us questions about what they're gonna learn, and they forget that we'll be paying them to do a job for us. The other way that you can really show that you're interested is by having plenty of questions to ask the company. Always remember that when a company is interviewing you, you're interviewing them as well, because you're thinking about going to work there. You need to make sure that it's a company that you want to work for, that you'll be happy in. That's important as well. So think about the whole process, and that will make you come across as a candidate that the company is likely to want and knows will be committed to working with them.
Fantastic. That's some really wonderful kind of interview advice, and even just for applying for roles, what to think about and how to make yourself stand out against the crowd. We have time for one final question, and this is from one of our students whose username is Future Business Owner. And they said that they want to start a business in the future, but they're afraid of losing money. So do you have any advice about how they can develop the confidence in order to be able to do this?
That's a challenging thing, because in going into in starting a business and going into the business world, there is a risk that you will lose money, and we certainly talked about it earlier in the presentation, that we make investments and hopefully many are successful, but not all are. So one of the things to do is to experiment with investment. If you've got a small amount of money, you try to invest in a number of different things, whether it's stocks listed on the stock market, whether it's gilts, just to try to understand what investment is like and what benefits and what gains you can make, but also the risks of losing money. Do it carefully and do it in relatively kind of safe investments, and just try to begin to understand that process, because there is no guarantee. The only thing you can do is have a good business plan and have really thought through why somebody needs the product that you're offering. And you just make sure you're well prepared and think about it, but perhaps try to practice with a little bit of investment also.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your presentation, top tips and advice, Liz. It really is appreciated. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. A huge thank you to everyone who tuned in and joined us this morning. A short announcement for those of you who've been asked to complete the student activity sheet. The colour for today's talk is mustard. That's mustard. We've also shared a feedback form in the Q&A thread, and it'd be great if viewers could complete this. Liz, thank you so much for making the time to join us today and answering all of our questions. We had many more questions submitted, so we will share those with yourself and the team again, so you can see a little bit more about some of the specific questions our viewers had as well. For those of you who will have had your interest piqued around investment and the opportunity that can offer as a career, please be sure to check out the GAIN website, and we've shared the link to that in the Q&A thread. And we'll also share that on the Virtual Talk library when this talk is made available as well. Thank you so much, everybody. Liz, thank you again. It's been a pleasure to have you join us this morning. And please be sure to look out for future virtual talks on the Speakers for Schools website. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.